you may be trying to figure out what this video is going to be about just from looking at it this way. But if you've seen the title, you know this is going to be my abusive fathers kind of comparing / contrasting Kaido and Endeavor. Kaido from One Piece and Endeavor from My Hero Academia. Not exactly like the, okay, why, but given things that, of course, we've been seeing going on in One Piece very recently in the anime and in the manga, with stuff that's being shown about Yamato and everything, and stuff that's being shown about Kaido, and stuff that's going on in regards to One Piece, with that, and then with My Hero, we have stuff where, Shoto and Endeavor, like in the anime, they just, they're getting ready to finish up the My Hero Academia arc, or have finished it up, and then in the manga, we're getting to conclusions of things, and Shoto and Endeavor are going to hopefully be going after Dabi together, and such. And I wanted to do kind of a, not like the which one of you is the less worst father, because for those of us that read both of them and see both of the anime, that's kind of easier to conclude that, okay, out of the two of these guys, Endeavor is actually the less worst father. Doesn't mean Endeavor is like a huge amount improvement over Kaido, but I I at least wanted to bring that up. And you'll see why I get that explained throughout the course of this. And to kind of balance out horrible father and horrible father, I'm wearing an Iron Man shirt because, those of you that have seen Endgame, which at this point in time I'm sure is most everybody, him to, Morgan, I love you 3000. And, we have that and everything. So let's just get started. Yeah. In the back, obviously, I pulled out a bunch of plushies. I've got a bunch of different dragons, and I've got fire types. I also have a fluffy, Tyrannosaurus Rex and a fluffy Brachiosaur because I found fluffy dinosaurs at the store, and I wanted to buy them. And the Brachiosaur is kind of a representation of Queen, and I guess I don't know, since there's no actual Toby Ropo that has the Tyrannosaurus Rex fuse. The closest we have is Drake and his Allosaurus fruit, but he's defected. And then over here in the corner, we have Shoto, represented by, Shoto. And then I have a fluffy puppy that is going to be the representation of Yamato for this video, because Yamato, of course, can change. Change devil fruit, and it's a mythical dog fruit, so I went with rainbow fluffy puppy because my brain. So yeah. So to start off with, just basic things about the different characters. Obviously, I'm going to talk about Kaido a little bit first, and then I'll go into Endeavor. So Kaido of the Beast, the strongest creature, wisdom king, wise king. He is currently 59 years old. He is currently the captain of the Beast Pirates. Has King, Queen, and Jack, 3 calamities underneath his control. He's got the Toby Ropo, all of which except Drake have all been supposedly all knocked out because Drake defected, and supposedly Jack just got knocked out as well, which I am fine with. So we've seen kind of that. Currently, when I'm recording this, King and Queen are currently fighting Zoro and Sanji, the wings of the future Pirate King. We'll see how they go. Kaido also has the Ua no Mi model Seiryu, or the fish fruit model, mythical model version Azure Dragon. So, giant blue frickin' dragon. Who's also a fish. Side note, I hatched a perfect Magikarp, 4-star Magikarp in Pokemon Go, and is male, and I nicknamed it Kaido, and it will eventually get evolved into a Gyarados, because I kind of wanted to do that anyway, since they revealed what Kaido was. I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to do that. But that just hasn't happened yet. And then in regards to the players, in regards to their child, the only child that we know that he officially has is, of course, Yamato. Age 28, has the Inu no Mi model. Okuchi no Makami, or the dog fruit, mythical zone model, Okochi no Makami, which is this mythical wolf-type fruit. That apparently gives Yamato the ability to somehow control ice. Kaido's fruit, of course, also gives him the power of like the wind blades and the borrow breath, and you know, that type of stuff, and like the creating the clouds that he uses to move Onigashima and that he uses to fly. And supposedly Momonosuke, who's currently a giant freaking pink dragon at the moment, also may have access to some of those same things. So we'll see what happens with that. Currently, this video is being made just after the chapter came out where Momo bit Kaido, which is just like, okay, yeah, no, Momo, yes, Momo, you'll be fine. Just bite Kaido and then go stop the giant flying island from falling over the city of innocent people. And, you know, what we understand of course, Yamato and Kaido's relationship is, all we've seen of it so far is what happened after everything went down with Oden, after the, you know, the legendary hour where Yamato was a child and she watched as, you know, Oden stood there in the boiling oil and held his, you know, held all of his scabbards up on the plank and everything for an hour, and, you know, set them free so they would be able to go, and, you know, we know what happened with that and everything. And from Yamato's side of things, you know, she saw this when she was 8 years old, because her and Momonosuke are the same age. Actually, I think her, Momonosuke, and Jack, I think, are all the same age. I think. And, you know, she watched as everything happened with Kaido, with Oden. And, you know, her father killed Oden, and then she runs off, and she did find her way to the burned out ruins of, you know, the, you know, Curry Castle. And she found Oden's logbook, and she's had that logbook for the past 20 years. And we don't know exactly like how Kaido and Yamato's relationship was before all of that happened. It could have been that Yamato kind of very much to a degree was very similar to the way that Kaido was, in the fact that he was this very, you know, power is everything, and, you know, power is what makes right and everything. And, you know, Yamato may have kind of gotten to the point where she was kind of like agreeing with that, and seeing what Oden did and hearing what Oden had done in regards to, you know, the dancing in the streets to, you know, save people, you know, that gave her this shift in her worldview, and then she started to idolize Oden. And to a degree, you can kind of see where Kaido is coming from in regards to that, where he's like, no child of mine is going to be adoring this man who, well, man who actually injured me, but moving past that, you know, no child of mine is going to adore this man and then, you know, claim to be him. But we don't know exactly if, you know, Yamato had always, you know, already kind of not gotten along with Kaido, or so. I'm hoping we're going to find out a little bit more about, like, what happened before everything happened with Oden, where we get a little bit more of, like, oh, Yamato and Kaido actually got along okay. Yamato or Kaido is actually kind of, like, sweet, and, well, as sweet as Kaido can get, I guess. Whatever sweet variation of Kaido there might be, him, you know, actually caring for Yamato, because we have no idea who Yamato's mother is. I'm kind of going to throw the Linlin being her mother, or being Yamato's mother, kind of out the window at this point in time. But we don't know who Yamato's mother is. I'm hoping we'll find out at some point, because that's like one of those things where it's like, okay, can we please find out who her mother is, who Yamato's mother is? And yeah, I'm going to say this now. I am aware of the fact that Yamato refers to herself as Kozuki Oden because she's, you know, self-styling after him. But she is biologically female. That came out in the recent, you know, data book type stuff, or the, SEOs, questions, corners type stuff. So if I go back and forth with that, I apologize, between Yamato and she and they and her and all of that, and I apologize. And, you know, we don't know what happened with that. With, you know, how their relationship was beforehand. We've only seen it post what happened with Oden. And Yamato then spends the next 20 years she has Oden's logbook, she reads it, and she basically spends, from what we can tell, she spends the next 20 years to a degree running from Kaido. She has the handcuffs on her that prevent her from being able to leave. Now, I do not remember specifically if the handcuffs only prevent her from leaving Onigashima itself, or if they prevent her from just leaving the boundaries of Wano entirely. Because if she's only able to be on Onigashima, then she's been trapped, then Yamato has been trapped on Onigashima for the past 20 years, ever since she got out of the cave with the samurai, where they, freed her and, gave her the food and, give her hope and everything to continue fighting. And, and they helped her, and they did nothing against her because, yeah, she was Kaido's child, but I think they're kind of like she's Kaido's child, but she hasn't done anything to us. And, there's the whole theory that one of those samurai is either Zoro's father or his grandfather or somehow connected to Zoro. We'll see what happens. I don't know what to say to that. But, Yamato has now spent the last 20 years kind of on the run, quote unquote, and any kindness she was shown by any people that worked in Onigashima that gave her food or anything like that, they were killed. And, Kaido had them killed for showing her kindness, which is BS. But Kaido is also just a bastard anyway. And, we know that, Kaido repeatedly has beat Yamato to the point where she has probably, to within an inch of her life to a degree, but he can't bring himself to kill her because he can't bring himself to kill Yamato because he wants to have her become the Shogun of Wano after whether or not he was planning on always decapitating Orochi was left up for debate. But, we'll see what happens with that. Orochi's not dead. We'll see how much longer he's alive. Hopefully not much longer. Let's just get everyone come up. We're just gonna pin him to the ground for Orochi, and we're just gonna let everyone just walk by and subsequently just chop his head off until they stop growing back. Just someone bring me some sea stone handcuffs. We're just gonna keep chopping his head off until it stops growing back. Everybody's gonna get their pound of flesh on Orochi. But back to Kaido. And Kaido and Yamato. What we see, of course, is Yamato and Kaido, they continually fight. But he won't, kill Yamato. And also, there's lots of, funny comics online of Kaido accepting that Yamato wants to be considered a male, because we see in the flashback that we got with Yamato when Yamato was little, when she was 8, after, everything that just happened and everything, when she gets put into the cave, she's called Ogre Princess. So at that time, Kaido was identifying her as his daughter. And she wasn't running around with the mask all the time and everything. And obviously a bunch of the Beast Pirates knew that she was female. And then after everything that happened, she started referring to herself as, Oden, Kazuki Oden and everything, claiming that. And, Kaido started referring to Yamato as his son as opposed to his daughter. So no longer the Oni princess. Hopefully we'll get a little bit more as to like what type of genetics they actually have, but we'll see. And what we see is, Yamato supposedly is on the run, hiding, fighting Kaido occasionally, getting stronger. She is obviously training herself, and at some point Yamato got a hold of the Makami fruit that she ate because she was starving. Whether that happened just after she had escaped from the cave or whether that happened a little while later, we don't know, because we don't know how long Yamato has had that fruit. Kaido has had his fruit for 38 years because he got it at God Valley and everything, and we don't know that much about what happened at God Valley beyond, Roger and Garp worked together to fight the Rocks Pirates, and then they disbanded, and, Big Mom went one way, Kaido went the other way, Shiki and Whitebeard and whoever else, went all their own different ways and everything, and, we'll see what happens with that. Kaido, I am also going to, check out the whole idea that, Kaido could be like Katakuri and Oven and Daifuku's father, simply just because of the fact that Big Mom stated that she looked at Kaido as a younger brother. And at that time, when they were on Rox's crew, yeah, he is old enough, I do believe, to be their father, to be that triplet set father, but I don't think that that's what's going to be revealed. I could be wrong, and I could, that could be what happens, but I'm not sure. But of course, what else we see happen between Yamato and Kaido is, she is now like, they just, they're having this full force battle on top of Onigashima for several chapters where she's pulling out her hybrid form and where he's using his hybrid form, and they're going at each other. And, they're using their armament haki and their observation haki against each other. And Yamato's, racking up her, Conqueror's haki to use against her father because she has that as well. And, they're fighting against each other, and she's pulling out all of her powers and her ice powers and everything like that. All in this, last-ditch attempt to try to destroy her father. And she doesn't care at this point in time if her father dies. She just wants him defeated. If that results in him being dead, okay. If that results in just him being completely defeated, and then they like literally find a way to like trap him to the point where he cannot move and where he can never escape again, that's also the possibility. I would lean more towards, how about we actually kill Kaido? Because if you don't kill him, he will come back. And he will come and try to kill you again. And I don't know if they're going to have the ability to try to fight Kaido again. So how about we just kill Kaido? Whether that results in he can turn into a, supposedly a fish fruit. So throwing him into the water may not necessarily be the best idea because he might be able to breathe underwater, but, tie him in enough handcuffs of sea prism stone and drop him into the ocean and, whatever, he can't change. Maybe he'll die that way, if you don't kill him anyway. I know the Straw Hats don't necessarily have a huge proclivity for actually killing their enemies, but Kaido might be one of those ones where it's actually a better idea to kill him than let him have the ability to return. Unless, because of course Kaido's concept is, the strong bow to the stronger. And, King and Queen and Jack have all bowed to Kaido. The Tobi Roppo have all bowed to Kaido. We've, of course, learned that he basically raised Page 1 and Ulti since their father died. And so Page 1 and Ulti are kind of like that, well, I don't have Yamato, so I'll just raise these two, and they'll be a little bit closer to what I want as children. So we'll see what happens with that. I don't necessarily see, Drake changed sides. I don't see any of the other Tobi Roppo changing sides at this point in time. The only one that I would even slightly see changing sides would be Page 1, but that's only just because of the fact that he's the youngest, he's the weakest to a degree, and he might just be like, screw it, I give up, I surrender, please don't kill me, type thing. Because, he got knocked out by Big Mom, and he got, a fair amount of damage from Usopp and Nami, but, we'll see what happens with that. But I don't see, because either what's going to happen with Kaido when they defeat him is Kaido will either full on out just die. They will kill Kaido, and then his fruit will reincarnate somewhere else. Don't know where, but somewhere else. And then, or they will not defeat him, and Kaido will bow to the person that proved to be stronger. Which, if so, that would be either Luffy or Yamato or Momo. Probably not Momo. And he would then, bow to the one that proved to be stronger, because that's what he's had other people do to him. They bend the knee. And if Luffy does prove to be stronger than Kaido, logic stands to reason that he would, bow to Luffy. That's the less likely thing happening. I'm either going to put my money on either they kill Kaido or they defeat him and then somehow he gets, captured by someone. Blackbeard, Marines, take your pick. Same thing with Big Mom, but she can like always leave and go back to Totland, so we'll see what happens with that. But you know, Yamato hopefully will be going off to join the Straw Hats, and this is, you know, we'll see what happens with that. I do want Yamato to join the Straw Hats. I want Yamato and Kara to both join the Straw Hats. I would be perfectly fine with that. I'm fine with both of these characters joining. Why can't they both join? We haven't had we haven't had a moment where like two Straw Hats join at the same time, but I would be perfectly fine if they did that. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Endeavor. So, Endeavor, Todoroki Enji, current ranked #1 hero. He's 45 years old at the start of the anime, or at the start of the story. He's currently 46 years old, and his quirk is Hellfire. His wife is Todoroki Rei. She's probably 40-ish, and she has an ice quirk. Toya Todoroki / Dabi is 23 years old at the start of the series, and he is currently 24 years old, and his quirk is called Cremation. And then we have Fuyumi Todoroki, who is 22 years old at the start of it. She's currently 23 years old, and she just has an unnamed ice quirk. And then Natsuo Todoroki is 19 years old currently, and he has an ice quirk. And then, of course, we have Shoto Todoroki, hero named Shoto, because he hasn't come up with an actual hero name yet. He is 15 at the start. He is currently 16, and he has half cold, half hot as his quirk. Now, Endeavor is kind of an interesting case to talk about, simply just because of the fact of, from what we've seen recently in the manga, and things that we've seen in the anime near the end of this last season, he is improving. He's at least, you know, he's come to the conclusion that how he's been treating his children and his wife is wrong. That he shouldn't be trying to force Shoto to be this weapon, that he shouldn't have just, you know, neglected Fuyumi and Natsuo, that he shouldn't have been so hard on Toya, that, you know, he's getting to these conclusions of things. And that was even before they had the big whole, you know, the arc in the manga where they learned that, oh, Toya is not dead, Dabi is Toya. And, you know, this whole realization that, oh my God, what have I been doing for the past, you know, however many years? And, you know, I did this, and I you know, I'm regretting all these actions that I have taken over the years. The story that we basically have for Endeavor, for the way that he treated his wife, of course, is, of course, he married Rei, kind of bought her, kind of to a degree, from her family, simply because he wanted to marry her because of her quirk marriages, as Shoto has explained before, to create stronger children, stronger quirks. And they have Toya first, and he has Endeavor's quirk, a stronger version of Endeavor's quirk, his Hellfire quirk that has blue fire. Unfortunately, he has his mother's body, which means his body is more designed to be able to handle cold than hot. So he burns himself. But Endeavor continues to train him. And then several years later, they have Fuyumi. And having Fuyumi and Natsuo seem to be more of a, like, Endeavor's like, yeah, okay, I can, yeah, we'll give him children. We'll give him siblings to have around him. Because it's like, you know, Rei's like, well, we have one. Why don't we have another one to give him someone to be around? And, you know, so he has Fuyumi and Natsuo as well. And, you know, they seem to get along fine. He's probably still a little bit more, not like 100% neglectful as he is later on down the line, but not as, you know, he's probably a little bit more around for like Fuyumi and Natsuo when they're little. He's still like training Toya and everything, and then he starts to see that Toya keeps unfortunately hurting himself with his quirk, with his fire getting too hot. And, you know, he doesn't want Toya to hurt himself, so he's trying to figure out a way to like help Toya still train without getting hurt. Because that was the drawback of Endeavor's quirk, is that he burns too hot, that he overheats. And he didn't necessarily want that for Toya. And what we see happen is, of course, then they have Shoto. And Shoto, once he starts to show that he has a quirk, and it's revealed that it's the, you know, half hot, half cold, where he can do, you know, fire on his left side and ice on his right side. Yeah, that's right. I'm like, yeah, no, that's the correct way. That's the correct way. That Toya starts to become extremely jealous of him because now there's this child that has what Endeavor had wanted, and Toya had wanted to make his father proud. And we get all of this backstory, a fair amount of this backstory during, when Toya does when Dabi does his huge speech and everything during the end of the battle against the Paranormal Liberation Army, and where he's doing that. And then, of course, we get a little bit more of it from Endeavor and such like that. And, during all of that time frame, Toya had kept wanting to keep training and everything, but he, his stubbornness prevented him from stopping, but he kept burning himself more and more. And, he ends up, they have Shoto, as I said, and then Toya actually tries to attack Shoto when he is an infant. And then at some point, we know that Toya is around at least long enough for Shoto to start showing his quirk, and for Endeavor to start trying to train Shoto with his quirk, which is extremely grueling training and everything. And at this point in time, for Endeavor, All Might has been number 1 for a while at this point in time, given the fact that we kind of think that All Might's career has spanned about 40 years or so. And Endeavor has, Endeavor graduated at one point a little while after All Might, and then he was a hero for a little while before he married Rei. So he would have seen what All Might had been training and everything, and how good All Might had become. And I don't know if necessarily Endeavor's original concept was to have a child that can defeat All Might or be better than All Might, or if that's just how it got twisted later on down the line, that he just got so obsessed with that, with seeing how popular All Might was and always coming in second to All Might as the top rank hero once he got that high up in the rankings, and just never being able to get past that. And we get this great, we get like a very good picture of this in the manga and in the anime, when at one point, Endeavor sees this giant gap between All Might on one side of the gap and then everybody else, including him, on this side of the gap. And he refuses to stop. He refuses to not try to get better, and refuses to not try to get to where All Might is, to get to that whole other level of power or so that All Might is on. And he continues to do that because Endeavor does still continue to train himself. And even Rei, which, with everything that he put her through, even Rei has admitted that he is a good hero, because she actually encourages Shoto to, of course, go and train with Endeavor during, the hero studies and everything. And she encourages that. And Shoto does, and he does see that his father is a very good hero. And I don't even think Natsuo or Fuyumi could deny that their father is a good hero. Because, he is an amazing hero. He is very good at protecting people and saving people and stopping villains and everything like that. But that does not equate to being a good father in this case, of course. And, throughout Shoto's childhood, he gets exceedingly trained more and more by Endeavor. Toya does still try to keep training. Natsuo and Fuyumi, they both have an ice quirk, as is stated, but they probably do a little bit to the point where they can control their quirk, but it doesn't go very well. And at some point during Shoto's childhood, after his quirk has been shown and he started all of the training with his father, Toya supposedly dies. There's this huge fire that happens on this training area, and he ends up supposedly dying, and he runs away and everything. And this is when Endeavor then kind of snaps to a degree, and he just starts focusing more and more on training Shoto. And Rei keeps trying to beg him to not do it. Just, don't do this. Shoto is just a child. Don't do this. Don't do this. And, it doesn't go well. And he's, abusive to Rei as well. And this is where he becomes more and more neglectful to Fuyumi and to Natsuo. And where he, closes Shoto off from his siblings even more. You're in this world now and not that world. They're in a different world than you are. And he, Shoto knows that he has siblings, of course, and he does still get to spend some time with his mom when he's a child, because Shoto does, you know, we see him spending time with Rei and like watching All Might's on TV and everything, and All Might still inspires Shoto to be a hero. He's like, I don't know if I want to be a hero like Dad. I want to be a hero like All Might. And, you know, Rei's like, well, then be a hero like All Might. And that's where, you know, Shoto's, you know, motivation comes from to a degree. He still wants to be a hero. And then, of course, we have the moment where Rei snaps. And, you know, she snaps and she pours the water on Shoto and burns him. And then, you know, she gets put into the, well, not an asylum. She's in a mental hospital, which is, I guess, a slightly nicer word for it. But she's in the mental hospital where she is taken care of. She is given lots of therapy and everything. But Endeavor keeps it very quiet that that's where his wife is. And then during that whole time frame is when Endeavor then like steps up more and more training for Shoto. Shoto still goes to school. He still, you know, he probably goes to this like very elite private school. Well, it's either, well, I don't know if we ever get to see it. It's either Shoto goes to this extremely elite private school, or like he has like private tutors that come in and train him and teach him and everything. Because Endeavor wants Shoto to have a very good education, and Shoto obviously does, because he's like in the top 5 of the class in UA for their, you know, for class 1A. He's in like the top 5, along with, you know, Momo and Tenya and, you know, Izuku and Kazukiki, and then Shoto, like those are the top 5 in the class. And such, and then, you know, on down from there for the rest of the class. But, you know, Shoto spends, you know, a large amount of time still training and everything, but because he's so angry with his father, he, of course, only focuses on his ice power. He can still warm up the part of his body, because we see him, like, thawing ice at various points in time, even before he starts focusing on his ice, or focusing on his fire, but, you know, he's still, you know, more focused on his ice power, because that's his mother's power, and the fire comes from his father, and he wants to deny his father. Endeavor, of course, we see Endeavor still doing more and more training with Shoto, even, you know, when he's not off at work and everything like that, he's still training Shoto, and Shoto is still to a degree isolated from you know, Fuyumi and Natsuo, because Natsuo even said, it was like, I didn't even know before today what Shoto's favorite food was when they have dinner together at one point. And we see, you know, when we meet Endeavor in the story, you know, oh, he's at the sports festival and he's, you know, trying to encourage Shoto to use his fire. He tries to get Izuku to try to make Shoto use his fire, and, you know, all this other stuff. And, you know, Izuku is able to, you know, break through to Shoto, of course, during their fight and everything. You know, it's your quirk, not his, and everything. It's your power, not his. And, you know, the first time where we kind of see Shoto start to come out of that shell is when he tells Endeavor, you know, when he used his fire, he's like, for a minute, I forgot that you even existed. And, you know, Endeavor, you know, Shoto at that point in time is like, okay, fine. My father can help me learn how to use my fire. And that's, you know, he goes and does the, you know, the internship with his father, as I went over in the internship videos. He goes there and he does start to learn how to use his fire more, and he does use the fire to a degree when they're fighting Stain. And then he, you know, uses it more and more subsequently throughout the series. We slowly watch as his power, or his control over his fire half, grows stronger. And Endeavor is there kind of helping with that. Then we cut to with the big battle that happens between All Might and One for All, or All for One, where, you know, Endeavor witnesses this battle. He's there when it happens. He sees this whole battle that happens. He sees what All Might does. And then, you know, then All Might retires, and Endeavor is subsequently made, you know, the #1 hero. But it's not the way that he wanted it to be. It's not, he didn't become the hero, this #1 hero, the way that he wanted to. He wanted to become it by actually proving that he was honestly a better hero than All Might, which was a task that seems to prove to be impossible to a degree for Endeavor. And we see as he starts to shift in his actions, in his way that he interacts with people, with his children and even with his coworkers, because we see him being around Hawks at various, being around Hawks. And, he kind of has like a new costume design when he's revealed, the new #1 hero at the Billboard Awards and everything. And, throughout this whole time frame, Shoto has gone and started to see his mother more and more. And I am actually going to do a video where I talk about, like, a sequel to this video where I talk about Shoto and Yamato, like, compare them to a degree. Well, a little bit of compare and contrasting with them. But that'll be a different video where I kind of talk a little bit about that. But Endeavor starts to realize that he has to be better. And he then spends the next several months or so, he, talks with Hawks, and he does start getting better. And we have these moments where, like, he goes to where Shoto is doing his, remedial license exam training, where he's sitting and talking with All Might and, asking All Might for advice, which is probably something that Endeavor never thought he would do, because, like, him and All Might do not get along. And he's, like, asking All Might for advice about, like, how do you do it? How do you do all of this? How did you become the #1 hero when I've, saved so many people and, like, stopped so many villains and everything, but I still couldn't do it until you retired? And then, so we get those conversations with them. And then it's also him watching Shoto with the kids, because he's there when, like, Shoto and Bakugo and Inasa and Kami are having to deal with, like, the little kids that are, causing problems with their quirks and everything. And Shoto is, like, talking with the kids and, like, showing them his fire, but very carefully showing them his fire, and, like, help the kids and everything. And, like, Endeavor's watching this, and he's seeing how much more open Shoto has become. Because before even UA, Shoto refused to use his fire beyond just to melt some of the ice after he used it. And that was just warming up his body, not, like, actually setting it on fire. Whereas at this point in time, he's showing the little kids fire, making them understand that, yes, it is dangerous, but it can be beautiful and it can be very helpful, but you have to be careful with what you do with it. And Endeavor, we watch as Endeavor fights Hood when he fights the Hood Nomu. And him and, Hawks are there, and they're battling against it and everything. And, Endeavor, goes plus ultra, and he is able to defeat Hood. And we do see as his children, because we see Natsuo and Fuyumi watch this happen live. We see, Shoto watching from the dorms with his, classmates, watching as this happens for this huge battle with his father. And, between his father and Hawks versus the Nomu. And, like, Shoto doesn't want his father to die. Shoto is, like, relieved when Endeavor wins. And he's just like, thank God. Because as much as Shoto dislikes his father to a degree, he doesn't want him dead. Because that's one less hero that's out there to fight the villains. Whereas with Yamato could care less if Kaido died. Just like, I don't care that he's dead. I'm just like, we need to make sure that his devil fruit doesn't get eaten by someone bad. Let's feed it to Zoro's sword instead. But what else we see happen is, of course, Endeavor fights against Hood, and then we do start to see this more shift in his relationship again with Shoto, because, he wants to start training Shoto in how to use his fire more, but let Shoto be the one to approach him to a degree. And Shoto does. And Shoto is working on training his, flash fire, freeze, and, like, these other moves and everything like that. And we see that he's been doing some more training with his father at various points in time. And we do get the funny moment when the kids are off on the island in the second My Hero movie, The Heroes Rising, where, like, at the end of it, we get, like, the end credits, and, like, we get, like, these clips at the end of, like, all the different heroes showing up to help the kids. And, like, Endeavor's there, and he's, like, hugging Shoto, and he's like, oh my God, I'm so happy you're alive. And the look on Shoto's face is, put me down before I freeze you solid. It's, like, the look on Shoto's face, and that's just funny. And, so it's, I don't know if that's technically considered canon, but it's still funny. To show that part of that relationship. He's like, oh, thank God you're alive. Put me down. slight moment of levity in the video, which is necessary at times for certain subjects. But what we see happen is, Endeavor, of course, he invites Shoto to come and do the work studies with him, and Shoto accepts, and Izuku and Bakugo go with them. And, Endeavor had initially only wanted to have Shoto there. But then, of course, that lines up with when he gets the information about, like, the Paranormal Liberation Army are going to be attacking soon. And they have these plans and everything. Then he gets all this information from Hawks, and he's like, okay, I'm just going to train all three of you. But before that, we have it that after the battle with Hood, and Endeavor is, healed from being in the hospital, he goes home, and Fuyumi has this dinner where it's like her and Natsuo and Shoto and Endeavor, and it's the first time that we've seen all four of these characters together at the same time. And, they have this dinner, and now, Endeavor has, like, the scar on his face as well. And Endeavor tries to be, I was going to say nice, but that's wrong. He tries to be cordial and polite and everything to, Natsuo and Shoto and, Fuyumi and everything. Because, and, like, Shoto's there because he's like, Fuyumi asked me to be there, and Natsuo is basically the same thing. And he's like, I'm here because Fuyumi asked me to be here. I could give a flying frick about you. I'm here for her. And, Natsuo does end up storming out and everything. And this is, he's, still extremely angry at his father and everything. It's like, it's like, they can forgive you, but I'm not going to. And, he storms off and everything. And then, of course, we find out later that Endeavor has been having, dreams where, like, he sees his wife and his children, because at this point in time he doesn't know that Toya is alive. He thinks Toya is dead. He sees, Rei and Shoto and Fuyumi and Natsuo all living together and being happy and everything, and he's not in the picture. He's like this outsider watching from outside of the play, like outside of the house. And like during that whole time frame, and like this lines up with when they're doing the internship thing, when they're at, doing the work studies with Endeavor and the Endeavor agency arc that they have. And, they have this dinner where, Izuku and Bakugo come to the Todoroki household. Because, like, Fumi is like, well, how about you and Shoto bring the other two over, and we can have a nice family dinner and everything to celebrate them, with their, with their hero things and everything, with their work studies and everything, and just have, have a nice evening and everything, because you guys deserve a night off. And, they show up, and Bakugo is like, why am I here? Why am I even here? I'm not related to any of you people, and I don't want to be here. Ooh, food. And then he eats the food, and he's just like, I want that recipe. It's just like, okay, Bakugo, yeah, calm down. And, again, they try to have a nice dinner, and, Natsuo is there, and Fumi is there, and, Endeavor and the three boys are there. And they're all eating and talking, and, just getting some other little, talking and, relationships and, just like getting to know each other type stuff. And at one point, Natsuo does leave. I think he leaves in a huff again in that argument. Another argument between him and his father. And he leaves. And, this is where we get a little bit more information about Toya, that, there's this little shrine in the house that I've mentioned before, where they have, like, little shrines for, like, the person's picture, and, you can bring food to it as, like, an offering to them since they're gone. And, we see that, and we see young Toya, and, like, Fuyumi kind of explains to Izuku and Bakugo, more to Izuku, and Bakugo just happens to be there, about, like, who Toya was, and, like, about a little bit more about their relationship with her father and everything. And, like, Shoto explains, it was like, Izuku kind of already knows, and such, so we get that. And Natsuo left, and then it's, Izuku and, Bakugo and Endeavor and Shoto are all on the way, in their, Endeavor's limousine on the way back to, on his way back, take them back to, UA or whatever. And this is when they get attacked by, I think it's called Ends, is I think the name of that villain that, like, has all the lines that you can, like, control road paint, which I'm like, okay. And, he's got Natsuo trapped, and he's going to kill Natsuo if Endeavor doesn't kill him. He's going to force Endeavor to kill him. And then, of course, Izuku, Shoto, and Kasuke are able to, stop him and save the civilians and everything, and save Natsuo. And this is when Endeavor, he gets Izuku, Shoto, and he gets Shoto and Natsuo back home because Natsuo is safe, and he hugs Natsuo, and he's he's still apologizing to Natsuo for everything that happened, and I wasn't intending for you to get trapped in this and everything. And then, Endeavor takes Shoto home and Natsuo home, and he explains to Fuyumi that I'm buying a house for you three to be able to live with your mother so she can come home and not have to be in a place that's filled with memories of me. And so that way the three of you don't have to be in a place filled with memories of me, of pain. And so that way you guys can move on with your lives. And I'll stay here in this house that's full of pain and horrible memories as kind of part of my penance. And Endeavor knows that this does not make up for everything that he's done to his wife, to his children. It can't. And he knows that. But it's he can at least do something to help them work towards a better healing process and work towards better relationships with each other. Which is an extremely good thing to have. And at this point in time, Natsuo even says to him, it's Fuyumi and Shoto and Mom can forgive you, but I'm never going to forgive you. But I think even Natsuo was a little bit yeah, okay. And then, of course, shortly after that is, when we have the huge battle that happens with the Paranormal Liberation Army and everything, where, Dabi reveals that, oh, I'm Toya and I've been Toya all this time and everything. And, I just want to watch Endeavor burn. I want him to fall, and I want Shoto to fall as his perfect creation. And Endeavor basically has a mental break at this point in time. He's oh God, I screwed up a lot. I screwed up big time with the way that I raised them, with what happened with Toya, and oh God. And he's just oh God, I don't know where to start with this. I don't know what to do with any of this. And it's actually Ray, because we cut to when they're at the hospital. After the whole battle and everything, Izuku's still currently in a coma, and Endeavor's all bandaged up at the hospital, which is just kind of funny. And Shoto's bandaged up too from all the wounds that he got. And I do find this hilarious, where they get to the hospital room, and it's the rest of the Todoroki family is going to visit Endeavor. And Shoto opens up the door to go in, and then Endeavor looks over and he's crying. It's not funny that Endeavor's crying, but Shoto oh my God, he closes the door. He's crying to his mom and his siblings. And then it's just go in the room. And they go into the room, and it's just Fuyumi, Natsuo, and Shoto that go into the room first, and Endeavor is already starting to cry and everything. He's I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done this. I'm so sorry for everything that happened. I need, I don't know how, if I can fight Toya. I don't know if I can kill Toya now that I know that he's Toya. And Ray walks in. And I loved this part in the manga, and it's going to be great to watch in the anime. She's just then we'll beat him as a family. And it's just, yeah, we'll beat him as a family. We will present this united front to the world. And that will be what we show. And Natsuo is even what happened to Toya was messed up, but that doesn't, now he does need to be stopped. And for the sake of until this is all finished, yes, I will, be the loving son to the father and everything. With everything that came out about Endeavor, because he basically just Toya Dabi blabbed the entire world about what happened. About, everything that happened with Endeavor, about how he treated them, about how he treated Ray and the rest of the kids, and all of that. As abusive as he was. He, said that to the rest of the world. And it's just okay, that's not good. And, so we get that. And, Endeavor he's yeah, okay, we'll do this together. And then we get another hint of that later on when you know, and Izuku's off on his own and everything with, you know, like he's got Endeavor and Hawks and Best Jeanist helping him, of course, but he's also kind of off on his own. And Endeavor keeps ignoring Shoto's phone calls. And Shoto is just like, my dad keeps ignoring my phone calls. He's not supposed to do that. We already agreed. We're going to take down Dabi together. Because he's our mess and we will clean it up. And eventually, you know, after they get Izuku calmed down and taken back to the school. And I love the fact that I was right that literally like the first thing they do once they get him to the dorms is like, get him in the bathtub. I love that. That just made that so funny. Get him in the bathtub. He stinks. He needs bathe him now. Bathe him and feed him. And then wrap him up on the blanket so he can sleep. I just found that so funny that I was like, I got it right. They were gonna give him a bath. That was hilarious. I'm not the only one that got that right, but that was so funny. And you know, Shoto and Endeavor talk a little bit, and he's just like, you know, Shoto's like, you can't keep ignoring me. We have to go after Toya. We agreed that we were going to do that together. He's our mess, and we have to clean him up to not make up for what you did, but to show the world that you're going to do your best to not be that person again. And, you know, we'll see what happens with that. As I said, I'm recording this shortly, you know, just after, like, that chapter came out. And, you know, for the One Piece, just after, you know, where Momo bites Kaido. But, yeah, I would have to say that out of the two fathers, at least Endeavor is trying to fix his mistakes, whereas Kaido doesn't care whether or not, because now he's basically to the point where he's like, well, you're fighting me, and you're claiming to be Kazuki Oden, and you're fighting with the rebels. I'm just gonna freaking kill you now anyway. I was gonna make you, you know, Shogun of Wano and everything when I leave it after it's made new Onigashima, you know, telling this to Yamato. It's just, well, I was gonna make you Shogun of Wano and everything, and rule while I was gone. Well, I rule the rest of the world, but nope, now I'm just going to kill you. I mean, like, it's not like Kaido can't have another child or whatever and then have that child be what he wanted Yamato to be. But, you know, his Oni blood, as he keeps saying, you know, it's like you have the blood of the Onis inside of you, demons, ogres, whatever you want to refer to it as. We'll see how that goes down the line. Whether or not we get this whole big reveal that, oh yeah, they have like ancient giant blood in them, or, you know, whatever type of other blood. That'll be interesting to see what happens there. But I mean, like, there's also this other video that I kind of want to do a little bit that was like, what if Kaido was less crazy? There's also the other side of, what if Endeavor was a better father? There's a lot of fanfics of if Endeavor was a better father. Where it's like he actually very much cares for his children, cares for his wife and everything, and it's like he's still a good hero, but you know, that's a different story. So that's what we have for this, kind of comparing those two. I am going to do a separate video where I talk like some of comparing like Shoto and Yamato a little bit, which will be kind of going over a few of the same things that I did in this, but also just showing like how their lives were a bit different in regards to the other environments that they were around. Like, you know, Yamato was on their own for a long time, and, you know, yeah, Shoto was kind of on his own, but, you know, there's this little bit of a difference in regards to that, and that'll be a different video that'll come out. So that's what I have for this. Yeah, I brought out a bunch of plushies. I have a lot of Pokemon and Dragon plushies because I'm weird. Yeah, so that's what we have. I thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you have any comments in regards to like, oh, well, this happened or that happened, or like comparing the two fathers again, then that would be fine as well. I was debating about like making this a like really bad parent thing in One Piece, but that would involve bringing in like Big Mom, which, yes, she's a horrible parent. No denying that. Horrible parent. But I'm like, no, I just want to talk about these two fathers and such. So that's what we have there. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye. Damn it! That bull gorilla! He was seriously trying to kill me! I understand he is not a parent anymore.